No, definitely the announcements, because once government puts out a policy framework, it is not going to be in paper because there is a lot of, because Prime Minister would have announced it once all the back end work has been done. I am sure that the administrative machinery would have been working on this for at least for the past 60, 70 days. And right from our chief economic advisor and a lot of policy makers would have put their heads together to ensure that we bring out a policy. So it's definitely not going to be only in paper.
Hello viewers, welcome to our show. For the first time, we are doing a show in English. So today we are joined by corporate analyst Mr. Subramanian Vasudevan. Hello, sir.
Hello, Darwin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. So, sir, today we wanted to actually discuss about Prime Minister's announcement on May 12th and the subsequent press briefings of the Finance Minister. The stress seems to be on a self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, to use the Prime Minister's lingo. So, can you just explain what is the aim of this movement, so to speak? Is it really possible to move on to a self-reliant India?
Okay. Now, first of all, I think we should understand the philosophy behind being self-reliant. So,
Okay.
what self-reliance means and what Swadeshi, both are actually different. A lot of people get confused between these two terms. Self-reliant, as per the definition, what Prime Minister explained that day is India should play a very important role in the global supply chain. Actually, what has happened is across last few years, China has become as a manufacturing factory for the world. Anything and everything is made in China and exported to all countries across the globe.
Okay.
So when this pandemic broke, though China was the first to get affected, but across the world there was always a shortage of various essential items like the mask or the PPEs or ventilators. There are various things which were running short, and all were dependent on China.
Okay.
This is one of the examples. And not only this, like for example, India as a country is one of the major exporter for drugs across the globe. Like we are the world's hub for generic drugs, especially. But unfortunately, even India depends on China for all what we call as APIs, activated pharma ingredients. So these are all made in India, made in China, sorry. So what happens in this case is the dependence on China is very high. And to reverse this trend, what Prime Minister expects is to make India a very important part of the global supply chain.
Okay.
That is the biggest motto behind this. That is where the catch term comes, like be vocal of being local and be global. So we have to become global. We have to start selling things globally also, but we have to make first locally self-sufficient, and we should be vocal about that.
Okay.
So that is a underlining principle. So it is to ensure that Indian companies and India as a whole becomes a major player in the global supply chain of anything and everything.
Okay. So one of the criticisms which is directed at the government is that most of this money is going to go to the corporates. So what is your take on that?
I think it's not a very right way to put it out, because the announcement what happened in last across 5 days by the finance minister is categorized into various beneficiaries across the segment. And just telling that corporates are going to benefit is not a right way to put it out,
Okay.
because definitely these announcements are going to open up a lot of opportunities. Who
Okay.
grabs the opportunity is what will succeed in the end game. So now there are some corporates who can definitely scale up things very fast, so which will help them to succeed in few things. But that doesn't mean that an individual like you or me will not be able to grab the opportunity. Definitely, it's something which anybody who spots the opportunity can ensure that they succeed in that. Another very important thing is these announcements were not restricted only to the corporates. Like
Okay.
for example, there is a major announcement for the farmers. In fact, I can be ambitious to say that each and every farmer can become a businessman
Oh.
as we move across, because of this framework what is going to come. One of the basic things they are going to change is that farmers need not sell their product only to the mandis which they are associated with. So that is going to open up a big market for the farmers, and that will help them to become actually to decider for their farm products price, which is
Okay.
not the situation now. Farmers are dependent on various things to fix the price of their product. So in that way, this is going to be a game changer for the farmers. So in that way, like everybody have some or the other, everybody are a beneficiary of the announcement, but depends on how you spot the opportunity.
Okay. Moving on, what is your take on the finance minister's announcement that most of the government enterprises are going to be privatized? Like, do you think it's a step in the right direction?
This privatization of PSUs is not something which is happening now. It has been policy matter which is going on across last 20, 25 years. Because one of the key reason is the efficiency of the public sector companies definitely improves due to privatization. But in these announcements, one of the key thing is it is not, government is not telling that they are going to privatize every other public sector entity. Their intent is to have some strategic sectors where there will be enough public sector companies who will operate, but also private players will be allowed.
Okay.
So one of the underlining policy definition, what they have said is private players will be allowed in all sectors. So which means there will be private competition happening across the sectors in all, which are even not there now, maybe having in later stages, private sectors, private players will be entering those sectors. But that doesn't mean government is going to give out the public sector entities. They are telling that public sector entities will be there in the strategic areas where they feel public sector entity should be there. And
Okay.
also there is a announcement that there will be a combining of entities of different public sectors to make a bigger public sector, like how they did in the banks. They
Okay.
combined 2, 3 banks together to make bigger banks. Similarly, public sector companies will also be combined together, and they will be made into much more bigger and much more efficient organizations. Another very important decision what got announced is the ordnance factories will be corporatized, which
Okay.
means factories like heavy vehicles factory or gun manufacturing factory in Trichy. These are all defense entities which were not a corporate entity. So
Okay.
as we move forward, these may become corporate entity. What advantage is like there will be more transparency, there will be better control on the way they do things, and there will be a broader visibility to public on how these companies are run. So in that way, a heavy vehicle factory can become like people will know about that, like how we know about BHEL. So that may happen in future.
Okay. Another one question which I wanted to ask was, in one of our earlier shows, you were telling that MSME is the backbone of our Indian economy. So, with that being the case, what is in it for the MSME sector with respect to the finance minister's announcements?
One of the, I think, second or third day, the most of the day went on discussion on how MSME sector is going to be benefited, and I
Yeah.
would say that that is one of the biggest beneficiary of the announcements what finance minister has made. And I would pick up only 2 points in this. Like there are various announcements, but I think one of the most impactful area was the change of definition of what is an MSME. MSME means micro, small, and medium enterprise, which actually means that companies which were having investment less than 1 crore were called micro, less than 5 crore were called small, and less than 25 crore were called like I think less than 20 or 10 crore were called medium. But what has happened is this definition has been broadened now. So they have brought in another term called turnover, which is what actually these companies sell. And what was restricting the growth of MSME is because of the fear of losing their benefits as MSME, most of the MSME were reluctant to grow. They don't want to become bigger than so that they will lose their benefit of MSME. So they were all restricting themselves. So which
Okay.
has actually now the chains have been broken and the shackles are removed. So now they can think bigger. And few sectors can definitely benefit out of this. One of the key sector is auto ancillary sector. One of the estimates which came out was that 44% of auto ancillaries are getting back into MSME fold because of this announcement.
Okay.
So which means they will have direct benefits of whatever an MSME sector will have. Like one of the key benefit what MSME sector has is, like for example, if I am a customer of MSME, I have to pay them within certain amount of time. I cannot keep on delaying my payment. So what happens is this helps them to get their cash faster into the cycle, and they can actually make benefit out of the money which they get back from the customer. So the cash rotation increases, and the benefit from the bank loans, that is another area which I wanted to touch upon, where government has given 3 lakh crore for as loans to MSMEs, which means that, and this is going to happen through banks in a very transparent way with very less documentation, and
Okay.
there is a moratorium of 1 year also. So these are all the areas where MSMEs can definitely benefit, and there are already entrepreneurs who are I think started availing the benefits as well. So this is going to become a big game changer for the MSME sector.
So another important aspect of our economy is the agrarian economy. Gandhiji has famously said that India is an agrarian economy and India lives in villages. So with this being the case, what is in it for the farmers actually?
Okay. Another key beneficiary in this entire announcement would be the farmers and the agriculture related community, or the players who are involved in that. I will touch upon few areas which can have a larger impact as things move forward. As I mentioned earlier, I think the farmers are not going to be linked with their nearest AFMC mandis where they have to go and sell. That is going to throw up a huge market for the farmers. And what this also will help is a lot of startups, like who want to, like in India, the startup community thrives on bringing efficiency. So now this is a grand opportunity for all the startups to actually look at the areas where they can associate with farmers to make them sell their product more efficiently. And also they can actually look at areas where they can give some prediction models to farmers. For example, one of the scheme what FM has told is farmers will be able to know what is the price at which they can sell the product even before sowing the product. So that
Okay.
is going to be again a big game changer, because if I know, like am I going to make money in this product what I am going to sow today, so the farmer will be more confident of doing things. So this is an area where startup community and farming community are going to have a lot of interface. And also anything related with farming, like animal husbandry, fishing, these are all like sectors which are again going to get directly benefited from the schemes which have got announced. But one of the key thing which we need to understand is these are all changes which are happening at the structural level. It is not going to give impact immediately. So it will take some time before we actually see action happening on ground. And I'm sure that policy framers and also the bureaucrats, they will be putting in the right policies and framework to ensure that these things can become more successful and farmers can benefit out of this.
Okay. Finally, I would like to ask you for a grand perspective on this. Like, what is your overall take on the announcements? Like, is it really going to benefit the Aam Aadmi, that is the Indian on the common man on the ground, or do you think it is only going to be on paper?
No, definitely the announcements, because once government puts out a policy framework, it is not going to be in paper, because there is a lot of, because like Prime Minister would have announced it once all the back end work has been done. I am sure that the administrative machinery would have been working on this for at least for the past 60, 70 days. And right from our chief economic advisor and a lot of policy makers would have put their heads together to ensure that we bring out a policy. So it's definitely not going to be only in paper. But what everybody would have expected is something to benefit this kind of a pandemic situation where we get an immediate booster dose to the economy, which I think may not happen with the policy frameworks and policy announcements which has come. But definitely this is going to become a foundation for us as we move forward into bigger things as we get out of this pandemic situation. So what it will help is, like, we have a good foundation and we have to start building upon this. And I'm sure that the government will also be watching these things closely. And as I earlier mentioned, people who spot the opportunity and make use of the opportunity are going to be the winners.
Okay. So, like, let's be optimistic on this. Like, in 1940, when America went into an economic depression, FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt went in for the big, what's it? It's the big deal, right? New Deal, yeah. He announced a new deal for the Americans,
New
and
deal,
that
yes.
actually restarted the economy. So, in that case, also, there were actually questions whether this would restart the economy or not. But one thing which happened then was it changed the public perception and brought in a lot of optimism into the country, which triggered growth in a sense. So that is what we have read from history. So let's be hopeful, sir, that this is going. Of course, we are going through very tough times, but I think we can be hopeful, and we need to be hopeful that we can come out of this and hopefully end up in a better shape than we are today as a country and as a great civilization. So this is the first time we are doing this any show in English. So thanks for your time for taking out time and doing the show both once in Tamil and in English. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, Darwin. Thanks for the opportunity.